Hey everybody, welcome to the HVAC Grapevine. Tonight we got a good show for you guys. But, before that happens, we want to tell everybody, like and subscribe, because we're trying to get the whole, the wheels going here. We got, we don't know what Chris is doing. Eric took a back seat, and we're still popping videos weekly. And we'd like for your support, and tonight's going to be good. We have NCI here with David Richardson, and we're going to be talking a lot about airflow upgrades. But who we got here in the background? Is that, let's see here. Is that, wait a minute. Who's this guy?
Dude. Hey.
Oh.
Dude, I couldn't leave you hanging, man. I couldn't.
Dude. Unbelievable.
Back,
everybody,
baby.
Chris
We're
Hughes
back.
is here tonight.
We're going to have a fun night tonight. And then we're going to spitball about where this is going to go. I'm not sure where this is going to go. We'll have to have an after hours talk. That's all I'm saying.
All right, we'll talk after the show. That sounds good to me.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Anyway, welcome to the HVAC Grapevine Show. I am your co-host, Chris Hughes. And I'm going to say the host is Mike Cianfranco, because Mike Cianfranco has been holding it down. If you haven't paid attention, man's been spitting out videos like crazy. Impressive. You're almost impressive as Ty Branneman. Maybe not quite that impressive though.
No,
like you got to really up your game to get that much content out. I don't know how he does it, but I tell you what, we could ask him.
Oh,
Ty, how do you put that many videos out all day, every day?
Well, it's a passion and a necessity, because I also volunteer with some tech support stuff, and these questions that people get asking, I'm like, well, people don't know that, so I need to tell more people about that. And then I put it out, and then people have more questions. I'm like, well, I need to answer these questions, and so I make a video, because it's easier to make a video than to type and spell check.
Yeah. Yep,
dude, tell me about it.
Yeah,
we had Ben on a while ago with Bill Spone. And he's like, hey, can you write something up for me about home performance? I was like, absolutely, man. And I started typing. I'm like, oh, my God, I can't type. I'll just make a video.
Yep.
I know exactly what you mean.
So, guys, I don't want to waste any time tonight. I've got questions galore for the guests. And so, we got to go right into this thing. Let's welcome David Richardson.
Hey,
Man,
guys.
I have wanted to do this show for quite some time.
All right.
Life is good. I'm hanging out with three studs. A good night.
Man, I tell you what, when David wanted to come on the show, I was like, we got to fire up this show, man. We cannot not have this show. We got to do this, right? Because this show is about news. We started this show because it was all about industry news.
That's true.
It's like in my life, growing up in Louisiana where I have, it's to get HVAC information. I'll give you an analogy that a friend of mine who lives in DC tells me all the time. He goes, what happens here, you will experience in 2 years. It's a ripple effect, right? Because he lives close to the capital, right? So if anything happens, they feel the immediate impact.
Oh,
and then I'm
right.
like, what are you talking about? He's like, don't worry, in about 2 years, you'll feel it. and I've seen that play out. And HVAC training is very similar. It's so unconnected, but starting to become more connected that in Louisiana, man, everybody's playing catch up to things that are happening around the country way faster.
Dude, I feel the same way in Florida here, man. I feel like this is the peninsula of pain, dude. It's like when I got a call from that one company. They wanted to do a lot of solar and auditing, and I looked to become an energy auditor. So I was like, all right, no problem. who's doing, training classes in my area? Nobody. I had no idea.
Ooh.
Yeah, you are now.
Yeah, right.
And someone says, "Do you want to be that guy?" I'm
Yeah.
sure that somebody told you that. You want to be that guy? We'll line you out.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But maybe soon. Maybe. I'll never say no, right? So
it does blow my mind that we're in the year 2024, and it's like when people are looking for training, I get asked kind of frequently about specific trainings. Like blower door specific, like zonal specific. Where can I go send my whole team to do like a zonal specific training? And I'm like, I mean, I could do a online webinar with you if you like. I'm like, where do you want to go? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
That would be cool.
People are getting curious though. There's a lot more curiosity now where people are wanting to dive deep, and so we got to fill that need.
Yeah, I'm loving it, man. That's what we started with. This was bringing information to people up front.
Yep. So with that being said, there's training, and then there's a lot of training that gets taught differently everywhere. And so there's been a mission, right, that we're going to go into tonight, and that's the air upgrade mission. David, here's my first question to you. An air upgrade. This is a trademark name of NCI, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So starting there, this isn't something you just made up. This has been, the reason I know that is because give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Yeah, we did a little bit of traveling on it.
Ty did this to me once on a live stream. He's like, "I'll be right back," and I was like, "You know what?"
He just ran off.
Yeah, lunch was interesting. Let me guys talk to you. How much? Yeah.
All right. So, I've sat in this class with you. This is your old ATD book, right?
It is.
Airflow Testing Diagnostic book. It's been overhauled, but
It has.
this is the old book, and it literally says air upgrade in it. So y'all been running with that name for a while.
Yeah,
but
it's
the
going
name's
on about 10 years.
But the name's
cool.
now the name's circling again, right? Like where we're bringing are we bringing like new life or just a different spin of life to it? Like what are we doing here?
Both.
Okay, take
Both.
us through it, man.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, air upgrades. No one cares if you start talking about sheet metal and ducts and insulation and mastic.
Yeah,
what they care about is what it does. Well, we do. I mean, that's just how we're wired. But most customers don't. They care about what it does, and that's kind of what air upgrades do. Is they take a predetermined scope of work and they dump it into a single package that improves airflow and static pressure at the equipment. And what it's designed is to do is get the equipment operating within manufacturer specifications, and hopefully fix a couple of comfort problems at the same time. Now, one of the nice things about that is having a prepackaged scope of work is you don't have to do any thinking about it. You pick and choose what's already inside that scope of work to fit the problems that you have. Now, you raised your finger up, so I'm going to.
Well, I gotta make a comment, and I've talked to Ty about this offline before. Like one of my biggest hangups with this show was like always like struggling with like not saying too much because I know too much, and it's like now I'm in that predicament. It's like, oh, I want to embellish on that, man, I can't. Like, are you feeling that issue right now as we talk about it? Right? Because like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like air upgrade is y'all's class, right?
Oh, we can talk an entire day about it. But I mean, to understand it's a prepackaged product that everybody can take and you make it fit what you need. That's what's cool about it. So many guys, anytime they start trying to figure out what duct repairs need to be done, it's a mix of a game of, duck, duck, goose and a science project.
Yeah.
And you end up stressed out and running around in circles trying to figure out how to do it right. And it doesn't have to be hard like that. So what we've done is tried to take something very complicated and simplify it for the redesign market.
Cool.
Question. When someone comes to you for an air upgrade training to learn how to do an air upgrade, and I hope I'm not, if I go too far, you tell me to stop. Right, because I don't want to give away the class, right? Because sure. let's just say it, man. You guys, you make a living off training, flat out. That should just be said, right? So I don't want to give your class away.
Well, it's not just the training; it's the process that drives the training. Because training without a process is just a random string of facts. which I mean, they're
Yeah.
good, but you have to be able to take that training and put it into a process and then monetize it. Without that, it's just cool stuff to know. There's a lot of sharp guys out there that, aren't making the livings that they could because they don't have processes to streamline everything.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely need to get into that a little bit tonight.
Yeah.
So my question is, when someone learns how to do an air upgrade, there's two things that come to mind. One, are we taking a unit out of life support, and is that the purpose of an air upgrade? Are we taking it all the way, where like you're getting total full-fledged like air balance comfort of the home, or is that two separate worlds, two separate classes,
totally separate worlds?
Okay.
That's what you're doing is you are taking the equipment to where it can breathe. It can actually go.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is it can breathe, and there's a lot of good side effects after that. When you fix airflow problems at the fan, and you can cover up a multitude of sins. But the approach to where you're talking about, where you can take an actual system to where it can be balanced. A lot of guys say, we're just going to balance the system. I don't think so. There's a whole lot of work that goes into that. Most systems, I would say 99.9% of all systems can't be balanced without some type of work.
Yeah.
To get to that balancing level, another option that you have, there's like a fork in the road. We have a timeline in the class that we go over. And one of the branches off that leads you to a process called duct optimization. And that's where you're making the ducts right.
So that's
not air
class
upgrade.
2. So it's you go through first class, which would be your like ATD class. And then if you get the unit out of life support and then you want to become a mechanic who can do ducts, go through duct system optimization at that point, then you learn how to do the full gamut, right? Like that's where we go in and we're doing the whole shebang. Ty,
and some people may not want to.
You look like you've been wanting to say something for like 10 minutes.
I have. So I'm restreaming this on my channel also, and I just want to make sure everybody knows who David Richardson is. He is a brilliant man. He's one person I call on all the time. Anytime he's speaking, I make an opportunity to go listen to his class. He cares truly about this trade, and he will teach you so much stuff. And what's cool is he's with NCI, who also is about let's bring the trade up to another level. Instead of competing with people that are, all about that lower bid, they're solving whole house problems. And if you get into building science, you can get overwhelmed quick. But they have a system and a process that teaches people and builds people up and gives them a path to be successful. So I think most people, I just assume everybody knows who David Richardson is. But just in case there is anybody that knows, always listen to this man. He is brilliant. And you'll see me listening more than I'll be talking because what he says is always important.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we gotta talk to the audience because you don't know who's coming in as a beginner, and not everybody knows.
Well, and some guys may not know that before I was with NCI, I did this. We had to make this work in our family company, and one of the reasons I ended up at NCI is because this stuff that we talk about, the airflow and the combustion stuff. Hopefully, you guys can have me back sometime to talk about that. That's the stuff that saved our family company. And some guys they could care less. They teach me the technical stuff. That's great. But if you're somebody out there and you're struggling, you're like, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to pay the bills? We were there, and we knew we did better work than all the guys in our area. At least we thought we did. It looked better. It still sucked. And once we started testing, we found out. But we had to make a decision. We could either stick our heads in the sand and say, we're going to ignore this, or we're going to do something about it. And I'm grateful to say we did something about it, and we made a very nice living off of it.
That's cool. That's kind of like Adam Muffich from HVAC Overtime. And
Adam is a like-minded soul. That's one of the reasons we've been blessed to hook up with him. He's been awesome. A godsend.
Man, what a talented individual Adam is. Like, and I am fortunate at my career at TEC to get to work with you guys and work a lot with Adam. Like, and we built a good friendship. Like, man, me and that dude. My wife's like, who is that? It's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, that's Adam. She's like, we talk all the time. But we are insanely creative. And one thing I would tell you, we've had some fun, deep conversations about like, why did we get out of our businesses, right? Like, why did we go where we went? And we both have the same like mindset is it's not a money thing. You get to a point where you've made money in life and you've been successful and you're like, all right, I've made money. I don't need more money. I mean, of course, that'd be nice. Don't get me wrong. Who doesn't want more money? But like, you get to the point where like, okay, if I make 150 this year and I could make 180 this year, will I be more happy? No, probably not. Right? Like, it doesn't change anything. But like, when you know you could make an impact, right, for the people who do exactly what you do, and you think you could have a chance to maybe provide a better understanding. I'm not going to say a deeper. For example, I went to TEC and I felt like a total idiot. And I'll be straight up with you. Compared to most of the talent there, I am an idiot. Like, I am the idiot there, dude. I am the red sheep. But I can relate, right? Like, I've been in the trenches. I've done my time in the attics, right? Probably killed tons of brain cells by being in attics that I shouldn't have been into. I've broken into cold sweats. I know what that feels like. So I can understand when we're asking the wrong questions at the wrong time and say, hey, that information would be great. But when you're in a 135-degree attic and you come down from that and your clothes are soaking wet, and guess what? You didn't bring a change of clothes that day, and you want to measure airflow, you don't want to ask that question. Like, nobody's gonna want to answer that. That requires too much digging, and they're exhausted. And that's like, you know what I'm saying? There's things like that are changing paces inside companies. And I hope that the trend continues where technicians, like, not that I want to see all the technicians come out of the technical field and go work for manufacturers or training or this or that, but they need that level of influence. And at first I didn't think like that. I thought, man, what am I going to do here? For the long, like the first 6 months, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. But slowly it starts to make sense. And you go, oh, okay, I'm here for perspective, right? That's really my give. And Adam
You've been key in this process, Chris, that you're the connector for TEC to the HVAC industry.
Okay, I'll take it.
You are,
Thanks.
you know as well as I do. A lot of people don't know this, but the revision of that airflow testing and diagnostics class, I was in Chris's, actually we're sitting right across from where Chris is at right now. And we had this manual torn apart. And I was like, this has got to go. This has got to go. This has got to go in. Chris said, hey, what about this? I was like, yeah, that's got to go in. We'd slap a Post-it note on it. We were rebuilding this class in his room.
In my, like, literally like 5 feet away from here. It's like we did the class 3 times and we were like, all right, we're going to overhaul it. Let's go to my house and overhaul it. And we came back here and we just hammered down. Tons of fun.
That's awesome. And that's the class at the summit you're talking about?
I'm just giving kind of a preview edit at the summit. It'll be like an hour session. We'll take that class live probably in October.
Okay, cool.
When it's a version 3.0, that's when it'll go live.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do a lot for the average guy in the trade. It's not like, okay, here's a tool. There you go. You bring some people together, dude, especially with the Animal House at the symposium, man.
Hey, man.
You bring a lot of people.
I got to take my hat off. If it wasn't for Brian Orr inviting me to the symposium, none of the stuff that's happening right now, all this stuff that's connecting, would have never happened.
Dude,
next time, I don't know if that guy's a hugger, but the next time I see him, I owe him a hug.
Because
he's
I don't
the
know if he's
reason
a hugger or
that
not,
all
but I
this
hug him.
took off. He was the connector.
He's the glue. Fun fact, man.
You go in slow for the hug, and you gotta. He's done, dude. He's done so much, man. It's just so much. Yeah,
he's the reason. I mean,
he will. Yeah, he'll clam away, but just gotta go in for it.
He's definitely the reason I'm at TEC. I mean, straight up. I even when I approached Steve and them,
I'm a witness. I was there.
Yeah, Mike probably put the ball on the tee for me. Mike, the day before, I went and approached him and had a chat. Mike's
Steve Rogers and Bill Graber from TEC. Yeah, they were in the kitchen at the Animal House. I was like, man, I don't know, man. You guys need like an HVAC guy to like connect. and Bill's looking at like Chris, and I was like, yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's how that went down.
I mean, and if it wasn't for Brian Orr and the symposium, we've seen so many cool people get together, dude. We've had
very fortunate he's keynoting at our summit. I'm looking forward to that.
Allison Bales was at that, like hanging out with us. Like, they're cool people. You think they're
I'm just going to throw it out there, these guys. For anybody who's listening, there's no Animal House this year. I'm just gotta
Sorry.
say it, get it out there, because I every time it comes around, like 3 months out from the symposium, my phone blows up, and I'm like, and then I got to figure it out. So
We
I
still
took
don't
a
know
year,
where the symposium's going to be.
we don't, but I took a year off from doing that. Just
It's a lot of
FYI.
work.
It's going to be a long week.
Yeah,
For
I mean
those of us that go
AHR
to
is going to be
AHR.
AHR
Yeah.
is stacked up right behind it. I don't know where I'm going to stay. It hit both, so it's kind of confusing.
There was rumors that the symposium's going to be outside at Brian Orr's house. No, I'm joking. It's just a joke. Pool party.
All right,
It'll be good
Jumping.
wherever it is.
jumping back on track.
Yeah.
Hi, I see you've got my tool hanging behind you, dude.
Oh,
What's up?
dude.
That is my new favorite tool. I always use stuff before I talk about it, and oh my god, I love it because like I thought I was pretty good at airflow a long time ago, and then I learned about manual D, and then I got pretty good at that, and then I talked to some people that teach it and realized I had to start over again, and then I got pretty good at that. Like I'm like, yeah, you know what? I can't keep up with Ed, but I get this down pretty good. And then when you start measuring, like not just like putting your probes in, yeah, I got a good static pressure, I can diagnose some stuff. Like when you start measuring, you can really see the difference. The numbers
it's
don't
cool.
lie. Like, wow, that has been an issue. I've never seen that before. So like, it's awesome.
It's crazy stuff, man.
Well,
I did
one
the
of the
video.
things
I did
that-
the video on it. It diagnosed a bad X13 motor, a Gentech. That was nuts.
Oh, if you haven't seen that video, Mike, if they haven't seen that video, you need to put that video in the link in the show notes in the chat and let them watch it. That's
Okay,
the first
yeah.
story I've heard of someone checking a motor that's still running, but actually diagnosing the motor while it's still operational.
It
that
was a
bad.
water leak call, and now you know, Ty, because like a lot of people in the chat don't have the tool.
Oh, if you don't have the tool, you need to like buy that now.
Dude, it's
All right.
it
This is
I
gonna
put it
turn
right
into-
in the
this is-
grill. 8 minutes, man.
This is going to turn into a sales pitch, and we don't want to make this a sales pitch, but
No.
we are going to make it a sales pitch
Yeah,
tonight.
don't.
But
You need
know,
a true fluff.
It's well, I'll tell you, Chris. You know how much we believe in this thing because it's in the air upgrade process now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know the background of how we hooked up because we said we've got questions about it.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell that
Steve and
story.
Bill said, you need to come to our lab and we will show you. And you
Yes.
guys invited myself and our engineer, Ben Lipscomb, up. And we gave you guys 5 torture tests. And we said, if you guys can pass this, then because this is what people are going to do with it.
Yeah.
And we said, if you guys can pass this, then we play ball.
So
And you guys, I
NCI
think,
went to
within-
TEC.
were 5% of the worst.
Yeah. So
That we-
David, so for like 2 weeks before David and then came up, this is like really, this is the beginning of the relationship, right? And we had been wanting to build a relationship with NCI, get training off the ground, because like I'm just one person, right? And like in taking the HVAC route for TEC, and definitely the bosses help out, but they got a whole company to run, man. They can't be doing like
blower
everything, right?
doors,
So
duct testing
like,
equipment.
we need
Yeah.
a training organization like that's in the tech's face with it. But it's like, but you guys wanted to vet us out, right? And
So,
which was
so
pretty
they
awesome.
they beat it up, huh?
So
I mean, but
David
that was our
sends
job.
me,
But we needed to.
yeah. David
Yeah.
sends me a description, and so I'm like, all right, crap, what do I do with that? And so I mock it up in PowerPoint, and I'm like, David, is this what you want to see tested? He's like, well, this I want to change this. I'm like, all right, let's mock it up again. So I like mock it all up, and I'm like, is that what you want to see tested? He's like, yes. I was like, okay. I send that to the bosses, and they're like, okay, we need to, like, you may not know this, but we tested before you came up because we wanted to make sure we would pass, right? So like we're like, hey, we go to the engineering team, we're like, mock everything up, test it, test these 5 assemblies and make sure we're passing, so we were confident when you came up. We knew we would, but it's like, you always want to be super prepared, right? So
It's
like we
almost like
tested
you're not
everything.
testing, you're guessing.
Yeah,
What's
like
that, Ty?
we're testing it out, but like
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. We of course there's always a situation where you're like, man, I hope there's no issues there because this is what they want to see, and then we can't like fudge it. Like it has to be exactly what we mocked up that they approved.
And Ben and I, when we went back to the airport after meeting with you guys, I mean, we were like skipping into the terminal because we were like, holy crap, they've got the solution that we've needed forever for getting the sale. Because the sales piece is always the missing piece of any type of a duct upgrade. I'm not trying to throw any salespeople under the bus,
Oh,
but
you mean
most
the
sales
report?
guys have never been trained on airflow. They don't want to mess with airflow. They want to sell boxes.
Right.
And what the TrueFlow does is it makes airflow testing easy for a salesperson. You guys made airflow testing easy. You put the workflow in the app. I mean, you've made it easy for a salesperson. You solved our problem.
Well, taking this a step further, we also kind of like got the agreement with drawing a blank. Come on, Chris. I can do better than that. MeasureQuick, right? And y'all have some ideas with MeasureQuick that are coming down the road. I don't know how much you're allowed to speak on that, but if you want to get people a taste,
I can talk about phase 1 because it's been released.
Okay.
Anything else, I can't. Because and that was another thing that happened as a result of the symposium. Us sitting down and talking with Jim and envisioning what could happen. And they're like you guys. They are so phenomenal getting to work with Jim and Joe and Val. I mean, Ben, they are such an incredible team. And what they've done is they have taken similar things to what you guys have done on the TrueFlow app, but they've done it to where we can tie it in with a process where a technician can go straight in. They can measure static pressure, and then they've got, calling it a static pressure screening test. You guys have one also. Mm-hmm. And that's really like the first phase, because without a technician, the air upgrades remain hidden until you test for them. I mean, you can look and say, oh, this duct system sucks. But until you got measurements, you're guessing. And it provides a real simple way to get started. And that air upgrade process depends heavily starting off digitizing it through you guys and through MeasureQuick.
I want to show this just so people know, because this is free, right? And I don't want people to think I'm like asking for money, because trying not to turn this into a commercial, but people need to know, and that's what this show's about. So here's what we're talking about. Inside the app, you can see there's NCI workflows. Now, what those workflows, some of those workflows will do that the ones that we built initially in there won't do, is what David's saying is, look, you don't want to purchase a tool yet. Totally understand. Doesn't mean you can't start somewhere. And those workflows will start you somewhere. You can get a manometer. You can take the manometer you have now, use the app. The app will guide you through where you need to take your pressure measurements, things like that, and then work your way up to more quality measurements. Y'all talked us into that. Good move, 100%, right? And then we tier people up. That's the name of the game.
So
get started somewhere.
With a basic manometer, you can get a nice report, and you can present that to the customer.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah.
And then when MeasureQuick's done, Jim didn't want to leave guys out that had Bluetooth probes. And he was like, well, we'll make it also where it connects with the Bluetooth probe. So if you got that set, it'll automatically connect with MeasureQuick. So, I mean, we tried to take something that we had done on a paper form for years and streamline the process. And you guys have been integral to that. I mean, the partnerships have just been awesome. And I'm excited to see where it goes. There's a lot of stuff coming, and you sent me an email a couple of weeks ago. I still need to respond to that in all caps across the top says confidential. So, there's some cool stuff coming, guys.
I've sent quite a few emails lately that said confidential. So I think I know what the one you're talking about, but it's been weird how many of those I've sent recently that say confidential.
There's a lot going on.
Which confidential one? Which one was it?
All right, I'll let the cat out. I'll let the cat out of a bag on one, man, that I think's pretty fun, and I want to get Ty's take on this one. And David, I'm gonna let a little bit of another cat out of the bag here. Like me and Adam, have been working like diligently for a custom class, and this one is for Chad Simpson's arena, which is his fast track lab, right? So Chad's got an airflow class kicking off, and he's hired NCI to come in and teach that class for his organization. And I'm going to support it. I'm going to be there. And me and Adam, this is a custom class that Chad wants for his team. And so I told Adam, we've been going back and forth with ideas like crazy. And I had this idea. It's an airflow class. I was like, we need to get them engaged. And what went through my head? This man, Ty Brannaman. And I was like, we need hands-on. I was like, and it's funny, me and Adam, when we talk, we constantly say, how do we be more like Ty Brannaman? Like, how do we do hands-on classes? How do we make the invisible visible? And we talk about that all the time, Ty. And so this one goes out to you, man. I'll show you what I got.
Oh, there's the hands, the Saturday Night Live hands. Dude, David, I don't know if you know, but Ty had me pushing Chris on a chair in the Symposium parking lot.
Look at this.
I heard about it, but I
Yeah,
never saw
bro.
it.
These
Unreal.
are puzzle pieces, guys. And what I'm trying to do is build some type. It's not 100% done.
That's cool.
Let me rephrase that. It's a prototype, and the prototype's ready. And so I'm building a board game for retrofit sales, right? Where you take a truth flow report, and then you got to go build a system based off that report that's going to replace it, right? With the puzzle pieces. And you're going to have to do lookups and all that. And we're going to walk people through it. And we're hoping that through like that textile training, we're going to get a lot of good feedback.
Nice.
So Ty, that one's on you, man. That was all because like I got to be more like Ty.
Dude,
you
that's
influenced
awesome.
that, dude. You influenced that move.
I want to copy that game because that's cool. I love different ways of getting to people.
Well,
That's what it's
yeah.
about.
So I talked to the bosses about it, and at first they were like, I'm like, just trust me. I'm like, we need people to like. I said, I know it sounds simple when you like look at the app and then you think you can go to spreadsheets and look it up. I said, but that's not how people learn. I'm like, you need super basic, super easy pictures, right? That like, oh, I'm going to take the coil away and put a new coil in with a new pressure drop. Oh, and now I can see it. I'm like, that's how granular we got to get with this. That way they can visually see the attack. If it works out really well, we might turn it into like an official board game. Just saying. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway.
That's interesting, dude. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
That could be cool. I think it could revolutionize.
I mean, the industry
retrofit
is a
sales.
bunch of hands-on guys, so it's like,
yeah.
There you go, man.
It's so easy for us to forget the things that we talk about. It's it's our lives, but a lot of times for what everybody else has to deal with, it's a blip on the radar of what they got to deal with every day.
Yeah. I'm just happy we're having this show because I told my wife, like, I spent 3 days building that board game. No joke, man. We're talking daylight to dark, nonstop. We're like 8 in the morning, maybe go catch some lunch at 2 because you're just like focused. And then my wife's like, are you going to eat dinner? I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I go right back to the computer, man. I was just on it. And I'm thinking, like, this may be the coolest thing that ever happens in a long time, but nobody's ever going to know. You know what I mean?
Dude, if it reaches people, or what'd be nice is to reach younger kids into the trade, and maybe that's what'll be really good for reaching out. Like, I want to reach out to my son. Like, I thought a quick model would be like, hey, you could build like Minecraft. Come on, let me show you.
Summit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Adam trying to get me to the podcast pavilion at the summit, but I don't know. To be announced, to be.
We just we got to figure out how to like monetize the channel, man, so we can send you places. That's what we got to do.
I could pull from the budget.
Yeah, we'll pull from that grapevine budget. Hold on, man. I think there's a bag of change somewhere we could donate.
David had written several articles about using static pressure for diagnosing your problems and solving problems. And I saw that made a huge difference, and more people started actually using the static pressure to change stuff. But then I started seeing people would focus only on a couple of numbers instead of using it as a diagnostics tool. And I was like super frustrated. I reached out to David. I was like, David, like, I am so excited people are using pressure, but we're missing the point of the pressure. And so David wrote an entire article talking about, the airflow and, hey, it's great we're using probes. But he wrote an entire article. I was like, hey, Ty asked me to do this. And I was like, I share that article all the time because sometimes we get fixated on like superheat, for example. I need this superheat, but then we forget everything else in the system. And the same thing with airflow. Hey, let's check the static port. And then, hey, there's more to it. And that's what's cool about having a game to interact, to get you thinking about different circumstances. Because I'll be doing something with the grid or doing some checks, and I think, oh, I'm just going to call Chris. I'm like, no, I need to figure this out. Like, I need to think about it. I have this hotline if I really need it, but it's going to be more if I think about it first. So a game's a cool way of getting people to interact and think about things, not just for young people, but people like me. Like, that's that gets me thinking about situations I would have never thought about before.
Well, we're gonna find out if that game's worth it, man, or I'm putting it in the trash can. 3 days of work, man. 3 days of TEC money right down the drain. Who knows?
Well, I appreciate the Roomulator was awesome, man. It's just like, all right, it's like processes, like like you're on a job. Sometimes you just kind of get scatterbrained,
You know who
So
you can thank for the Roomulator? That guy right there.
What?
I'm just gonna say, yeah, true story. If David wouldn't have that story goes.
I'll let you tell it.
You want to? I was gonna.
No, you tell it much better than I do.
I've never heard this before, man.
Yeah.
All right, so when I first,
I thought it was Johnny
TC,
Supertech. I'm sorry.
I might have told this here. If I'm repeating myself, sorry. You're just gonna have to sit through it. I apologize. All right, I'm just gonna tell the story. So I went to work for TEC about almost 3 years ago now, and right when I went to work there, if you remember, I broke my leg. I was roller skating with my kids. I thought I was cool, gonna roller skate backwards, show them the good old stuff, on my skates, like old school skates. I went in rollerblades, and I was like, watch this, I'm gonna roller skate backwards. That didn't go so well. So I fell, pretzel, snap, broke my leg, both bones, leg sideways, right? Horrible. And I had just started, I was 2 weeks in, and I was thinking, well, I'm gonna get fired. That's it. I was literally like, well, I was so upset. I was telling my wife, even as I'm laying on the roller rink floor, screaming bloody murder, I'm like, I'm screwed. And she's like, you'll be fine. I'm like, they're not gonna want to keep me while I have a broken leg. I'll be down for 3 months. And she's like, you worry too much. I even called Steve from the hospital. I'm like, Steve, it was Sunday. I'm like, yeah, I can believe this. I broke my leg. And I was like, man, I'll figure it out. I'll just take no pay. And Steve literally said, he's like, well, it's a good thing you got one of those jobs you could sit in a chair. I was like,
I can hear him saying
that. I was like, thanks. I think, he wasn't mad, But as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, man, I'm like, I got to be useful, right? And I'm not going to be out in the field making videos. I was so fired up to go out with tech friends of mine and say, let's go shoot some content. And I couldn't do that. And I was thinking, man, what am I going to do? So I was like, well, I can at least pick up some of the tech support work, right? So I get on the phone and I'm talking to a guy about a room that's overpressurized. And he's not quite getting it. And I get it, And I'm like, man, we talked for an hour. And I was like, how can I speed up that conversation? And I was like, and at the same time, I'm having daily meetings with Steve to learn how our products work, right? How does this measure flow? You can have the basic speech that you'll probably hear from us when we're working a booth. If you ask, how's the measure flow? There's the 2-minute answer. And then it's how does this measure flow? And then there's the 3-month course, right? And
the engineer
I'm going,
answer.
yeah. Then here comes the engineer. Here comes the calibration, tolerance, stack effect, all that. And you're like, oh, okay. So you got to think about all that. Well, as I'm going through that, I'm learning how things are measured. And I'm like, well, crap. When a door opens, it's a cap. Could we make that a calibrated opening? And Steve's like, kind of. And in Steve's world, that's a no-go because it's not close enough to accurate. And he's like, yeah, that probably wouldn't work because when you open the door, you have this crack, that crack, this crack. You never know how much it's going to be. And I was like, but Steve, I'm like, dude, horseshoes and hand grenades, bro. I'm like, people don't need to be that accurate with this. He's like, yeah. So we joke about it. And then I created the Roomulator literally on Google. What is it? What's the Google? Not Google spreadsheet. What's the PowerPoint of Google?
Oh, slides.
Google Slides. So I built it. I didn't even know how to use Microsoft PowerPoint at that time. So I'm living in Google Slides, and I create it, and I tell my wife for because I have a meeting every day, and I tell my wife for 3 days, I'm like, I want to show it to him. I want to show it to Bill and Steve. I'm like, but I think it's too stupid. And my wife's like, well, just show it to him. I'm like, nah, you don't understand. I'm new. If I present this, they're going to be like, who did we hire? You know what I'm saying? So I'm running in my head, is this going to sound stupid?
Chris was having imposter syndrome.
I was having imposter syndrome bad. And finally I'm like, hey, Steve, I'm like, can we, I want to show you something. And he's like, yeah, okay. So I show it to him, and they were super supportive, right? They were like, oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And I'm like, no, that's really cool. Like I'm jazzed about it. I'm like, I'm fired up, man. I'm in their face. I'm like, what are you kidding me? This is freaking awesome. I'm like, we should make this and sell
This
it
has
or
got to
whatever.
go out today.
Yeah, this is tomorrow's business. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's think about it. Like let's just table it for right now. And I'm like, table it. And I was kind of like taken back, like, dang, man. And then as the night went on, I remember telling my wife, I was like, they think I'm stupid. I'm like, I presented stupidity to them. I'm like, who the hell am I freaking trying to make a credit card when they're freaking making like badass tools? Like, who am I? And so I felt like a total idiot. And then, basically we dropped it. So I didn't bring it back up for 2 years, bro.
Oh
2
my
years.
God.
And then us and NCI started building a relationship. And somebody from NCI reached out and we talked about y'all were looking to build something similar to Roomulator, and y'all were just kind of wanting to do the spreadsheet move.
Yeah, it was John.
And I was like, you know what? I was like, dude, hold up a second. I'm like, I have this, and I have way better than a spreadsheet. And I'm like, I'm gonna call David. He's like, yeah, get in touch with David about it. So I reach out to David. I'm like, David, you need to see this. And so I send the slide to David. And David goes, bro, that's freaking awesome. He's like, what are you doing with that? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, the bosses kind of like, they kind of said it was cool, but, we tabled it. And I kind of feel like they didn't really love the idea. And David's like, I would have moved on that big time. He's like, you need to move on that before somebody else does. And I was like, you should call and tell them that. And so I think you had reached out, or maybe I sent an email. I don't remember.
We did it in
how
the
that
monthly
part went.
meeting. We
Oh,
talked
did we?
about it.
Okay. And David's like, oh, we want that. We need to do that. And you even then contributed some knowledge to that Roomulator. That, like, the whole 50% margin thing we came up with.
Yep.
That was your
I know
gift
Ben and
to that,
Steve
for sure.
worked on it pretty close.
Yep. And so we did that. And then the next time I meet with Bill and Steve, I'm like, so what about this Roomulator? They're like, dude, do it. Like, get it out there. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so we're moving on it. They're like, heck yeah. And I'm like, all right. And that's how it went to market. Literally, it's set for 2 years.
Wow.
Thank God I didn't delete it. So that's the Roomulator story. And if I die tomorrow, man, and that's my only claim to fame, I'll take it.
Dude, it helped me out, man. My master bedroom was so pressurized when the door closed. And I do have a jumper. Let's see here.
You made a video on that too?
Yeah, let me see if this camera moves. Come on.
Oh, you got the camera that Muffet just got.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, he got that from me.
Follows you.
See, I've got one of those jumpers. Which is the same for every bedroom. The builder put the same thing, so.
Yeah.
And when
At
I
least
did
you
the
got
master,
something.
yeah, that's true. I did the master bedroom. I put the DG8 under the door, and I got to find that video. It's only like a minute video, but
Thank goodness you didn't undercut the door, Mike.
yeah.
It would look like a bathroom stall door.
Dude, yeah, I mean that is undercut too. It's crazy, and this one's like 4 pascals. But anyway, yeah, I used a Roomulator, and then I did. I think it was what's the company that makes those wraps? The Return Air Path.
Tamarack.
Tamarack. Yeah, that's the one I got. And I got the biggest one they got, and I got it close with the Roomulator. I was like 4 pascals with door close. Yeah. I'm happy. Hey, at least we're doing better, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right?
And to add to that is 4 doesn't mean you're not winning, okay? Like there's so much knowledge to be had and learned about that. You might hear people say, hey, 5 pascals is where you need to stop. 3 pascals is where you need to stop. You need to get as close as you can to 0, And the truth is, unless you know the leakage of the room and the impact to the ductwork when you're taking that measurement, you don't really know where you need to stop.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Plus,
3 pascals is
how much flow is coming into that room?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's an easy check to make, and 3 is a good place to live, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just say it. It's like a rule of thumb, straight up. It is a rule of thumb, but it's a hell of a good rule of thumb, right? And you can't go wrong living by that rule of thumb. Could you get away with 5 pascals of pressure? Yeah, you could. You could, but you need to know when you can, and you have to take more measurements to make sure you can.
Yep.
And you should be measuring all that anyway, but 3 is definitely somewhere. 3 pascals for anybody who's listening, not 3 inches of water column.
Oh, right. Yeah. Pascal.
Coming up in the classes, we finally got a hold of your printer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dom's already placed a gigantic order, so they're going to start going out in every class.
That's
There we
cool.
go. I popped it in the chat. Pascales, people. Pascales.
Scallies.
But
All
yeah.
right, Ty, how do you make the invisible visible?
Well, for us, I mean, numbers, right? That's a big part of what I love about the measurements, because I don't remember who the first person was that said, if you're not testing, you're guessing. But when we start actually seeing numbers, when I was doing the duckulators, my first duck design, I would put in the CF film because it just made more sense. I could see what was happening with it. But then having things like, the manometer, the true tool, the pressure, being able to see what's happening between there, for us, numbers is a great way to do that. And then before that, sometimes you have to back up. And so stuff like, smoke's a great way to show. And if you have a room that's leaking, we still use the smoke. You can see exactly where it's going. So we can see that invisible air movement. We can see what's happening. The other day, there was a conversation in the HVAC school chat, and they were talking about hot towards cold. And if you open a refrigerator door, what's happening. And then, so there was a whole big discussion on it. And then they got the infrared cameras out and the smoke out, like did all this stuff. And they showed, the hot air goes in at the top, and then the denser cool air rolled out at the bottom. Like it was both, everybody, both sides are right. And then, but we could visualize it. Like, here's a bunch of people that think in thermodynamics, but when we brought out all the stuff, let's see what happens. I love that. And then Chris, when you do these examples, you're like, hey, let's see what happens. Let's do this. And it's cool when you can actually see that result. My friend Craig Michelaccio, like, he has the clear drain lines and the clear plexiglass on. And he's like, hey, let's show what this is going to look like. Let's take a TX and hook it up to water. Let's show what that's going to look like. And the more that we can see, the better it is. And once we get comfortable with these numbers and we start realizing that they're not just scary numbers, they're a way for us to see what's happening, that really helps us do our job better, solve more problems.
Making the invisible visible. Yeah, with smoke, man. Vapor. Yeah.
Got to be relatable.
Yeah. I like showing that to the homeowner, when you got a blower door on. Or like leakage. Huge in Florida is leakage right under the air handler every freaking time with these guys. They're making me look good. I'm not that good. I'm just testing stuff, man. And like, dude, you could fit like, I don't know, plywood top. Somebody's got to change the game here.
Mike,
I used to love those titanium tetrachloride smokers. Those things were the best. They cause cancer, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Don't breathe. Let me show you this, homeowner. Come over here. Get your N95 mask.
Mike, have the videos you've been creating, are they helping you when you're doing your daily work with homeowners and stuff now? Are you starting to see like a return on investment from dropping content?
Dude, you know what's funny is, like, when I'm doing a job and I go, wait a minute now, I might want to make a video out of this, but then I go, well, I think I'm skipping steps. I'm being a normal chuck in the truck. It's like, come on, procedure, let's go. But yeah, it's been it's like having this little angel on your shoulder. Like, let's dig a little deeper, take a breath, slow down. Even if I don't make a video, I'm slowing it down. So it's good.
I just had the most genius video idea for you. You should make a video about just that topic where, like, you miniaturize yourself and there's like the angel and the demon trying to talk you into doing it the right way versus the wrong way. I'm just saying, that'd be hilarious.
You know what I want? That guy that does videos, he's got like HVAC life, like magic marker. I'm going to have that guy. Yeah, is it Cheeto? Yeah, I'm going to have Cheeto over here. And then we'll just...
All right, I got a question. I'm going to take us back on track. So you're talking about process. David, you mentioned that y'all teach, there's training and then there's process and training. What do you mean by process? Can you give us an idea of, like, or get more deep with us about what do you mean by like you teach a process?
What happens is a lot of guys will go to a class or they'll get a fact and they'll learn something and they'll get all jacked up on Mountain Dew and they'll wonder, what do I do with this? And they're trying to figure out how they put it into their daily operations. And a lot of times, I mean, it's like trying to change the tire on an 18-wheeler as it's driving down the interstate. You have to get creative. And it's one of the top things that most guys say, you know what, screw this. It's not worth it. I'm giving up. They need a vision of what they can do with it. And that's one of the reasons why we're not, I know some processes are like, you have to do this. And it's like thou shalt and carved into stone tablets. We're not that way. We're very, it's like, hey, try this and see if it works in your company. It's always based on the way that you do things. It has to be flexible. And so as we start to do that, we try to keep in mind this has to apply to different company sizes. You may be someone who has, 4 employees, or you may be someone who has 40 employees. So you have to know how to scale these up, and we try to account for that and how to tie this in. And, one of the best places that we teach to start with your own stuff. Dude, that's where you have the aha moments. That's where you learn it. You think about playing sports, and Chris, your son being heavy into baseball, we know the baseball game. I mean, they will take thousands of swings, thousands of pitches before they ever go into a game. And that's how it has to be with testing. You have to make it fun. So start on your own stuff. And the humbling part is you'll see, there's things we need to improve. So you start to work through and figure out the process that way. And then you have to also figure out who does what. I mentioned it was like a game of duck, duck, goose. So you're running around, you're trying to turn it into a science project, and you have no idea who does what. Right. Many times there's defined roles, and the baton, if it's a race, gets handed off and someone else takes it. So just like a well-oiled baseball team, everybody knows what their position is, but they also know what everybody else is responsible for. Yeah. And you see the same thing when it comes to an air upgrade. Everybody has their role, but they also have to know what everybody else does. So that way there is a series of checks and balances.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, he said it right before you popped it in there. Yeah.
Zach, dude. Let me tell you guys about Zach. Zach is revolutionizing an industry, and I don't even know if he set out to do it, but he has filled a need for duct renovators because a lot of companies, I mean, we all know that we have a labor shortage in our industry. Zach has taken an approach to where he is providing the duct renovations. He is the renovator. He is providing a service that a lot of HVAC professionals need, and he's filling that in to where they work congruently hand in hand with an HVAC professional, providing the service that they need. You guys will meet him at Summit too.
Oh, cool. Yep. All right.
When is
Summit,
dude,
it's I'm sorry, man. It was, I don't want to forget this, but, it'd be good if a lot more people just understand, like, even if they want to do this high-end testing, I mean, it's not really high-end, but it takes a little time to learn how to do these different things. But if it doesn't fit in your own personal company, find a relationship with somebody else in the area where, like they can go ahead and test and refer all the repairs to your company for the duct renovations. I want these guys with these smaller companies to understand that you can rely on somebody else, make a partnership,
And give yourself time to learn. That's one of the biggest things. The biggest danger that I see in all of this is people thinking they have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Most of your customers are not going to pay for perfection, and you probably can't deliver it anyway. We don't work in labs. Chris, you talked about coming out of a 130-degree attic with cellulose stuffed up your nose. That's not a laboratory environment. We have to deal with the hands that we're dealt. And what we're looking for is an improvement, a level of improvement that we can document from test in to test out and solve that customer's problems. That's the game changer with all of it.
I totally agree.
Johnny Super Tech. He is a spaceship too, I hear.
Yeah.
His van.
He's impressive. I mean, no budget for that guy on the show, but that's another thing.
Yeah, we ran out of money for him.
Yeah.
We were going to put a fifth square in there.
Oh, well, that's the whole reason Mike's ain't getting no funds. I mean, self-explanatory right there.
We had him on the show a couple of episodes back.
Wipe the budget out. Wipe the budget
cleared
out.
it right out.
So, David, what is the summit going to be?
It is September 10th through the 13th.
And who
in
can go to
Asheville,
that?
North Carolina.
Yeah. Tell us
It's gonna be a
about.
lot of
Tell us a
fun.
little bit about the summit, David. What's this like?
It's our annual conference, and I mean, it's open to anybody. So I mean, anybody's welcome to come. A lot of people that you guys know are going to be presenting there. Chris, I know you guys are going to have a pretty big presence there. Jim Bergman, we talked about the guys at Measure Quick. They're going to be there. Brian Orr. Dustin Cole's given a session on his renovation process, running through it. Adam's got a session on
Nice.
heat pumps. Trying to think, man, I know I'm going to leave people out. Of course, most of the NCI instructors will be there. Rob Minnick's doing some stuff on building science. Some of you guys don't know Mark Hunt. He'll be doing his first summit. He is like Jim Davis version 2.0. So if you've never had a chance to listen to Jim Davis in person, and Jim is supposed to be there, by the way, Mark is like his clone almost. So just he doesn't have the hair, but I mean he gets it. So he'll be doing his first one. So
David, you want to hear something funny?
Stuff. The hair is real, by the way.
So one year, I don't remember which year it was, but Chris books the house. He throws everybody in there. Sometimes he forgets to tell me who's coming, right? So I'm sitting at the Animal House one year, and I'm talking to this nice guy for a while. So I was like, hey, I'm Mike, and yeah, and I was telling him about, what I do, and I was like, so what do you do? He's like, well, I started this company. We do this, we do that, and I started this company called NCI. I was like, oh.
Dom.
I was like, Dominic. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was you, Dominic. I was like, okay. We were just talking, we're shooting the shit, and I thought it was so funny. I was like, I'm talking to the head guy, NCI. I didn't even know it. We were talking for a half an hour straight. But dude, that's a symposium for you, man.
Yeah.
It is. Everybody is. We all
down
put
to
our
earth.
pants on the same way, and everybody's so approachable.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
I got a friend of mine, and I'm really, really trying to get him over to the summit because he, where he's at in his business now, he's very successful. He does good. He keeps it small, but he's just kind of that point to where he won't be able to keep doing all of that work forever, and he wants to figure out how to, he doesn't want to grow into a big company. And I'm telling him, like, NCI is the way to go. Now you're going to be solving problems, and you could even contract out the AC side of it, or have train a guy to do that. But you need somebody with, the mind being able to think about air and pressurization and the airflow. I said, now you're solving a different level of problems, and that can turn your business around. And I know that because I've seen it from so many people. David, you yourself, it's happened. I've seen Adam Melfich, he's able to turn his company around. So I have a friend of mine trying to get him there. And I'm saying that here because I know that there's other people listening that want to do that. They want to do the science. They want to do more of the stuff, but it's either overwhelming or they don't know how to get started with it. And that's what NCI has, is they have that path. They have the support system there to help you get successful.
I'm not sure if it's still going on. I mean, we have a submission for a scholarship. We give away 10 scholarships every year. It's free registration to the summit for the whole deal. So if he hasn't done that survey for that submission, have him apply for a scholarship.
Dang,
that's really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, they'll draw 10.
Because I think the best way to start somebody off in the trade is to get him before he learns all those rules of thumbs and the beer can holds. So it's tough. It's tough to invest into a young kid, but you got to do it. You got to jump, and you find a smart kid in the trade. Yeah.
Backing up's hard, man. I've backed up and had to go getting into load calcs, and I probably told this story, but I love it, man. I never forget doing this is like I came from the commercial background, and I was probably the person pushing my family into the residential side because we were getting into more custom homes, being asked to do custom homes. And so I had to learn calcs, and I had an engineer who was kind of helping me do calcs, and he was like, hey, man, you need to do these on your own. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how. He's like, I'll help you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I remember the first one that I did that I trusted myself to go all the way. And my cousin and me are installing this job. And I remember this is like this big old living room, and we ran 2 6s to it. you know, and they were like really short right off the plenum. And my cousin just looks at me. We're sweating. Yeah, I mean, we're just like installing it. It's hot. He goes, "We really doing this shit?" He's like, "Really?" He's like, "We're gonna do this." I'm like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna do this." He goes, "All right, you're the boss. I'll do whatever you want." He goes, "We'll be back next week replacing this shit." I mean, that's exactly his exact words. He's like, "This is stupid." And I'm like, "I have to know. I have to know." And I didn't tell him like that. I just I had to be confident so he would have confidence in me. And I'm like, "Dude, the program says it. We're going to do what the program says." I'm like, "And yes, if it doesn't work, we'll just come back and change 2 ducks. Who cares? Whatever." I'm like, "We're just going to do it." And he's like, "Fine, whatever you want to do." You know, he's salty. He's like, "Fine, fuck it, whatever." And I'm like, "All right." And so I had to let him not see the fear in my face. And I'm like, "Bro, let's just do it." He's like, "Whatever." We do it. And I actually got called back to that house because it was also the first house where I convinced the homeowner I didn't want to put a mini split in the framed roof above the garage. I was like, I hate that. Right. And I'm like, we can duck this thing and make it work. And I talked to the guy building the house. It was his house, custom home builder. I was like, "Look, man, air seal the heck out of the bottom side and all that. Like, make that room like an igloo. Like, do just as good a job on that room as you're going to do on the rest of the house." I was like, "And we're going to duck it. We're going to make it work." He's like, "All right." And he did, but he missed one thing. We went back to the house and he called me and I seen the phone call and it was probably 3 months later, right? He just probably got moved in. And I was thinking, damn, here we go. I'm going to have to go back and redo those living room ducts. I picked up the phone and he goes, "Hey, man." And I was dumb. I asked him, I said, "Hey, man, how's that living room doing?" You know, I went straight for the gut punch. He's like, "Dude, living room's fine." And I was like,
"Dude, that's awesome."
And he goes, "But man, upstairs is hot as hell." And I just went, I was on a high and then I went straight to low and I was like, "Oh, damn." And so we rode over there. It was me and my dad. I was like, "Dad, let's bring the kite. We're going to go over there. We're going to go balance it." I was like, maybe it's just a air balancing thing. We pull out my right soft load calc, lay it on the table. My dad goes around with the kite. I'm calling out numbers, and he's just checking them. And we ain't holding nothing back. We're yelling across the house with the dude in the house with us. And I'm like, 192 or 76. And he's like, 83. And I'm like, okay, that's close enough. Go to the next one. Like, we're going at it, right? Very transparent. Well, we go into the upstairs room and we measure airflow, and we have it. And we're like, well, crap, what's the problem here? And we're sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? Hang on. I was like, I'm going to go get I just bought like a month ago the FLIR camera that plugs in your phone. Let me go get that thing. And let's see if this room's like suffering from some heat. Because I was thinking maybe he just didn't do a good job on the walls. Right. And I go to scan it, and I'm just learning the tool, right? And I go to the ceiling. Everything's like blue, 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 red. And I'm like, well, maybe it's red because it's the ceiling. I don't know, you know? And so I'm talking to my dad. I'm like, you think that's normal? And Dad's like,
125 is fine for the ceiling, right?
We're thinking like, well, man, it is the attic, and it's probably freaking hot up there. I was like, the gun's probably showing that it's hotter, and it is hotter. And Dad's like, well, I'll just go get a ladder and climb up there. I'm like, all right. He climbs up there, and he goes, he's like, grass. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you ain't gonna believe this. I'm like, what? He goes, there ain't a drop of insulation up here. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, nope, nothing. He goes, they didn't put anything up here. I'm like,
and that's the one you did. That was like your first writes off manual J.
That was
and
my
S.
first, like, I'm gonna do it all the way, trust the process, the whole thing.
Yep.
That was the job that convinced me that math could beat out everything. Right. That was my convincing job. Cool. And not only me, my cousin, a bunch of us. When I did that job, and that was like a 3-ton on like 2,400 square feet. When I did that and we went back to it and verified flows in the dead heat of summer, that was like a shockwave through the company. We were like, you won't believe this. It works.
I got a 3-ton on 2,400 square foot.
Yeah, it was kind of like, whoa.
That's a 5-ton all day in Louisiana. You know?
I was going to say that goes to Ty's point about knowing home performance. Because what would have most guys done? They would have said 3-ton. We'll put a 5-ton in there.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of starting with the obvious. That was one of the coolest things that home performance and building science did for us, was it helped us separate ourselves from what was going on with the building. No homeowner will ever call the insulation guy and go, I'm uncomfortable, it's your fault. Or call the building contractor and say, hey, I got a ton of thermal bypasses, it's your fault. They always call us.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say this. I know you said Dustin speaking at the summit. If you want to taste how to be a good investigator, bro, that dude right there could tell you the tricks on how to investigate a home. Like, you want to be more than just HVAC, follow that guy around. Like, he's a
trip,
beast.
Man. He gets it.
Let me add another little angle to that. I used to really love doing the refrigeration side because of all the controls and all the moving parts and all the different things to diagnose. But I hated working in the hot kitchen. Everything's in a rush all the time, weekends, holidays, and then grease. Everything was covered in grease all the time. When you start looking at the house as a system, you get to see that there's a whole lot more science and cool stuff involved in solving that house issue as there are in all the really cool refrigeration stuff, which I still love the refrigeration stuff, don't get me wrong. But when you get to see the house differently, it's like the Matrix. You're starting to see all the numbers on the wall, and you're starting to do your load calcs. You're seeing how air is moving, and you start seeing things in a different light. And it really opens up a whole new world. So if somebody's out there and they're doing residential and they're stuck, or they feel, because I hear this all the time, people get like their dead end, start looking at the air side, the building side, because it's going to unlock a whole nother level. And then we're talking about pressure, and we can't forget pressure. Like, we think about comfort and performance being nice, but we need to address the fact health and safety. We're talking about pressurization. We know everybody loves gas furnaces. Like, oh, heat pumps are the devil. You got to have a gas furnace. Well, we need to be thinking about where is that flow going? Like, I'm good for either one, but if we're going to have gas, we have to look at which way it's flowing. I remember David said in one of his presentations, you put an arrow on there and the air doesn't know there's an arrow there. So we start looking at the pressurization side, and we get to see furnaces backdrafting, water heaters backdrafting, fireplaces, vents, all the stuff backdrafting. And that's a huge safety issue. So if you don't take anything else from NCI, go take the class for combustion analysis and carbon monoxide safety, because that will really open your mind to something that can really save a person's life. If nothing else, do that.
Yeah. Carbon monoxide is nothing to play with, man.
It's the blood and guts, man. It's and what's scary, I used to think this before I ever met Jim Davis, is, hey, we put a system in according to code, everything's great.
We can do better than code.
we can do better than code.
Then I learned what code stood for. It's actually an acronym.
I feel like I'm gonna have to start a t-shirt company, man. Because these little innuendos keep popping up, bro. Like, I was just talking to Dustin Cole the other day, and he said something, and I just was like, dude, you put the smarts to the parts. And he was like, oh, and I was like, bro, I was like, we still got to make a shirt like that. I was like, I need to make a Dustin Cole shirt that says,
soon as we get 1,000 subscribers, bro, we could do a little shop. We'll do a shop. You could put smarts to the parts. Dude, don't be a Jim Oak.
You gotta subscribe. That's all I'm saying.
Don't be a Jim Oak.
You gotta get CM Franco out and about. I mean, come on.
What was his slogan? I'm sorry. What was it again? I gotta start writing this down.
He puts the smarts to the parts, bro. That's what Dustin does. He's a beast.
That's a good shirt. It's like beer can cold shirt,
Final thoughts.
Besides the t-shirt business.
Besides the t-shirt's cool.
I'm digging it. I'm don't be a Jim Oak shirt.
You guys won't know what code stands for. Talk to me later. I won't say it on air.
That's right. We could do better than code. That's right.
All right. Final thoughts.
Guys, don't be intimidated by this stuff. It's a lot of times we disasterize this stuff and think it's a whole lot worse than what it really is. Start small. As Ty said, what may be an obstacle for you may not be an obstacle for somebody else. Everybody learns at different rates. One of the things that was one of the biggest obstacles for our guys, and I would have never thought this, was installing a test port in the equipment. They were freaked out that they were going to drill a hole into a coil or a heat exchanger.
Oh, right.
That was one of the biggest things. The other thing, as far as final thoughts go, is, that's good. Oh, and Dave's gonna be at Summit too. Dave has got some of the most rockin' filter racks I have ever seen in my life. And you guys will get to see him because I'm going to use them as part of my presentation. He has it down to a science, and he's also got the data to back him up on how he does stuff. He makes the best filter X I've ever seen out of sheet metal. They're craft. They are true craft. I got so excited about Dave's filter X, I forgot what I was talking about.
I mean,
What was I talking about?
Oh, yeah, you were saying-
filter racks.
You're saying
Wait, are Dave's filter racks going to be at the summit? Because if not, they need to be. Because you just talked them up, bro.
Oh yeah,
Dave's
they're
filterracks.com.
We need you to bring that filter rack to the summit.
It's on its way. It's already arranged. I didn't know Dave was on the show.
Nothing
oh,
beats
test
Dave
ports.
Racks.
Test ports. That's what it was.
What guys should I had a hard time getting our guys to start testing. And what I realized is they heard two words, more work. And we sat down, we're like, guys, come on. Why aren't we testing? And they're like, Dave, we got all this other stuff to this. It's more work. And once I heard more work, I was like, okay, ding, ding, ding. I was like, let's talk about how it makes your work easier and faster. So we went straight to the coil. I was like, if you guys are doing a coil inspection, how long does it take you to take the door off the coil and take the delta plate off, talking an A coil, and do an inspection and see if it's dirty? Of course, they start throwing out all kinds of time estimates. Okay, wait.
I've never heard the word delta plate.
Yeah.
Delta
What?
plate.
Delta
Is that
plate?
is that an X-Men character?
You talking about the sheet metal plate that's screwed into like to close the air gap off the side of the coil? That's got a
delta plate.
Okay. Had no idea.
I'd never
That's
heard that
new
one
for me.
either.
Yep. The one on the top's an apex plate.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I may be totally
Sorry.
wrong, but that's what I was taught.
Nobody told me anything about that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Sorry. I didn't
no,
want to
that's
disturb
cool.
that
That's cool.
story,
But the guys were like, it takes too much time. They were like, we got to do this and this and this. And I was like, and you agree it's important to check the coil? And they're like, well, yeah. And I was like, all right, number one, two problems. If the coil's getting dirty, we got a filtration failure. There's something going on in the filter.
Right?
Number two, you can drill a hole below, and we don't ever tell customers we're drilling holes in their stuff. It freaks them out. Put a hole before the coil, after the coil. Measure the pressure drop. If it's above this number, the coil's dirty. If it's below this number, you're probably okay. And they're like, we can do that? Yeah.
It's amazing.
yes, you can.
It made it easier. Just little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, man.
It should make your work easier.
Yeah. And I did a little bit of training. I got hooked on training, but my buddy's company, what I did, I would train 5 technicians, and I was like, who's got a manometer? And one guy raised his hand. I was like, well, bring it up from the truck. He's like, I got it at the house. I was like, well,
What's it doing at the house?
what's it doing at the house? But I go, all right, let's start here. I was like, how many of you guys have replaced an X13 motor? And I go, hold on now. I'm asking 3 X13 motors in a row. How many? And I think 4 out of 5 raised their hand. I was like, guys, this is the time to grab a manometer. Call me when you're there. Let's just test a little bit, Start small. Start small.
Yep.
Right. Ty, final thoughts.
Make sure get on LinkedIn. If you don't do LinkedIn for anything else, follow David. He writes these really friendly articles. They're easy to read. They're easy to digest. I'm not one for reading. I get lost and distracted easy. It's easy to read. Make sure you're following Chris too. He posts all kinds of cool stuff, and it's cool because Chris works with some brilliant people, like literally physicists. I mean, amazing people, and they talk to stuff. Sometimes I get lost.
Not the physicists.
And Chris will take stuff that Steven Rogers says and breaks it down and explains it. It's like Steve will say something, and I'm like, I look at Chris, I'm like, help me out here, bro. And Chris is like, oh, well, here's what he means. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And so make sure you're following him.
Yeah, it's all different.
There we go. Follow them. And then also, if you don't believe me, be following Mike, because Mike has started out where all this stuff is foreign to him, and he's adapting and he's doing it. And he's doing it in South Florida. And if you've ever worked in South Florida, that's a tough market. And he's doing it. It's happening. And people all across the country are doing this. It's achievable.
Yeah. 15 years into the trade, I knew nothing.
Different.
Nothing. 15 years into the trade, Ty.
I want something different. I want to learn more. And you don't have to know where to start. Just start somewhere and start trying things, testing things out. And then you're going to be curious. and it's like how is this, how is that, and like I say, when Chris and David, they weren't born into all this knowledge. It started out being curiosity and doing stuff, and now look at them, they're amazing rock stars. So start somewhere and just keep learning something new.
That's right,
All right.
man.
I'm going to leave my note here. Here's what I like to tell people all the time. There has to be some level of confidence inside yourself that you exude to the client. If anything I've learned in my stint in air conditioning is a client could read me like a book if I was not confident in myself. They could just pick it out. Bam, you don't know what you're talking about right now. I can sense that from you. You have to believe that you can solve it. Even if you don't know how to solve it, you need to exude that confidence so that customer looks at you and goes, you know what? He may be full of crap, but he sure is confident, because I'm telling you, you're not going to get the work if you don't exude that confidence to the client. And I hate to say fake it till you make it. That's not what I'm saying, but maybe that is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you got to start somewhere. You got to be confident somewhere. You got to have that confidence.
You do. You got to be confident. And then sometimes, you got a customer parrot. They're right here. I call it the parrot. And you go, hey, let me get all my information together, and then we'll get to you.
Yep. Yep. You don't have to have an answer immediately, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Hit us up.
That's a good.
Man. Hit us
That's
up.
a good one.
We
Yeah,
enjoyed
hit us
it.
up in the Facebook.
As you guys learn this stuff, stay humble.
Yeah. Oh, man.
There is I have seen guys learn this stuff and get attitudes. Stay humble.
All right. We went way over time, but it was totally worth it, guys.
It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. At some point, I forgot we were like on a show, but yeah.
That's what it's about, man. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
I think I dropped you there for a second, guys. Thanks.